Hey there, settle in, maybe grab a blanket or turn on that fan for a gentle hum. Let's ease into something. The ancient Egyptians took seriously, but with a twist that might make you chuckle. Picture this, a world where sex isn't whispered about in shadowy corners or buried under layers of guilt. Nope, in ancient Egypt it's as natural as the Nile's flood or the sun's relentless climb. They didn't clutch pearls or invent shame. They saw sex as sacred, tied to life fertility, and even the gods' cosmic to-do list. So before we dive into their wild myths and surprisingly frank love notes, hit that like button. If you're vibing with this, subscribe if you want more, and drop a comment. Where are you tuning in from and what's the clock saying? Now imagine you're strolling through a bustling Egyptian village, the air thick with dust and the scent of barley beer. Sex isn't a scandal here. It's like plumbing, necessary, functional, and ideally not causing a flood. Nobody's hiding behind papyrus scrolls, blushing at the thought. It's woven into their art, their temples, their daily grind. The gods are doing it, the farmers are doing it, even the cats seem to have an opinion on it. This openness isn't chaos, it's balance. Part of Mayat, their cosmic harmony that keeps the world spinning. A healthy sex life, that's the gods giving you a high five. A rough one, light a candle to Hathor, maybe toss in some honey and hope for better days. This attitude spills everywhere. Temple carvings flaunt fertility gods. Homes have cozy nooks for intimacy. Architects knew love doesn't bloom next to the grain stash. Unlike later societies obsessing over celibacy or punishing desire, Egyptians didn't care much unless you were stealing someone's spouse or messing with their harvest. Your worth wasn't tied to your bedroom antics, but to your land, your grain, and whether your linen stayed crisp in the desert heat. It's refreshing, right? No moral crusades, just people living loving and occasionally dodging nosy neighbours. So as we head into the myths that shape this world, picture a culture where desire isn't dirty, it's divine. Ready for more? Let's keep going. Alright, you're still with me cozy under that fan's hum, ready to meet the gods who set the tone for Egypt's spicy side. These weren't shy deities hiding behind clouds, they were bold, sensual, and frankly, a bit extra. Let's start with Atum, the ultimate DIY creator. In the Heliopolitan myth, he kicks off the universe with a solo act of cosmic enthusiasm. No partner, no shame, just pure willpower and a moment of divine privacy. From this, he births Shu air and Tefnut moisture, meaning the world begins with desire and a splash of bodily fluids. Scandalous nope. It's revered, a testament to life's raw power. No fig leaves needed. Then there's Osiris and Isis, Egypt's power couple, with a love story that's equal parts tragic and ingenious. When Osiris is murdered and chopped up by his jealous brother Set, Isis doesn't quit. She pieces him back together mostly. One key part's missing, so she crafts a magical substitute. Yes, that part revives him, just long enough to conceive Horus, and secures the divine bloodline. That's not just love, it's next-level commitment and some serious time management. Next up, Min, the fertility god who's never subtle. Picture statues of him crowned with lettuce, proudly displaying his Ehim assets. Lettuce was their Viagra, offered in rituals to boost potency. And Hathor, she's the goddess of love music and drunken joy, often depicted nude, radiating seduction and laughter. Her festivals were like ancient Tinder, but with tambourines and better vibes. Even Ra, the sun god, gets in on the act, creating life through speech. Or yes, spitting less wild than Atum, but still quirky. These gods didn't separate sacred from sensual, they fused them. Their stories taught Egyptians that sexuality was divine, necessary, and sometimes gloriously weird. As we move to the lives of everyday lovers, keep this in mind: if the gods can get creative, so can the people. Stay tuned for more. Picture yourself in an ancient Egyptian village, the sun dipping low, casting long shadows over mud brick homes. The air smells of baked bread and river silt, and somewhere nearby a donkey brays like it's arguing with the moon. This is where everyday love bloomed, not in grand palaces, but in the quiet, gritty lives of farmers, potters, and linen weavers. Unlike their dramatic gods or incestuous royals, regular Egyptians kept it simple. Love was about who lived down the path, who brewed decent beer, and let's be honest, who still had most of their teeth by 30. Sound relatable? Settle in, maybe adjust that fan for a soft hum, and let's dive into their world. You're a farmer, your hands rough from hauling Nile water, your romantic prospects, the neighbour who shares her barley stew, or the guy whose pottery doesn't crack in the kiln. Relationships here are built on shared work, ploughing fields, grinding grain, laughing over a spilled jug of date wine. Couples sleep on the same reed mat, raise kids under the same leaky roof, and steal moments of affection between dodging crocodiles and feeding goats. Privacy's scarce walls are thin, and nosy aunts are eternal, but intimacy's respected. Nobody's policing your love life unless you're poaching someone's spouse or slacking on your harvest. Proof of their connection. It's etched in the details. Tomb paintings show husbands and wives, hands, clasped faces, close, not in some stiff ceremonial pose, but with genuine warmth. On broken potsherds you find scribbled love notes. Your beauty haunts my dreams. That's ancient texting, folks, as raw and sweet as any emoji heart. Sex wasn't a secret either. It was consensual, practical, and nobody's business but yours. Women tracked their cycles, men sipped herbal tonics, and every grandmother had a recipe involving onions that you didn't dare question. This wasn't Hollywood's Egypt, it was real messy, and full of stubborn joy. As we head to their weddings, keep this image love thriving in the dust, quiet but fierce. Now let's wander to an Egyptian wedding, or what passes for one. Forget veils, bouquets, or awkward uncles doing a crocodile dance. In ancient Egypt, getting married is so low-key it's practically a nap. You're sitting by the Nile, the air heavy with lotus and mud, and you and your partner decide to share a house, some bread, and maybe a goat. That's it. No priest, no vows, no catering menu with divine mystery stew. You move in, share a bed, and society nods married. Done. The linen dress you wear, same one you wore yesterday, white breathable, maybe pleated if you're feeling fancy. No rings, no speeches, just practicality. The barley won't thresh itself, you know. But don't mistake simple for sloppy. Marriage contracts, especially later on, are like ancient prenups, spelling out who brings what land pots a cranky cow and who keeps it if things sour. Cheat or hit your spouse. You might owe silver. Not exactly romantic, but it's efficient. And here's the kicker: women had rights that would make other ancient societies blink. You as a wife could own property, initiate divorce, or drag your ex to court if he tried to stiff you on the grain split. Egyptian law wasn't blind to love's messiness, it had 20/20 vision. No honeymoons unless you count collapsing after a feast, while hoping the neighbours didn't overhear, but companionship, that was the real deal. This setup empowered women in ways we might envy. Your value wasn't tied to a dowry or purity. It was your ability to keep the household humming, your linen crisp, your fields green. Marriage was a partnership, not a transaction built to weather tax season and Nile floods. As we move to fidelity, or the lack thereof, hold this thought: in Egypt, love didn't need fanfare, but it demanded respect. And women weren't just along for the ride, they helped steer. You're back in ancient Egypt, the evening air thick with the scent of mud and roasted barley, the Nile lapping lazily nearby. Let's talk fidelity, or more accurately, how Egyptians handled the moments when love got a bit too adventurous. Picture yourself at a village feast, reed mats spread out, date wine flowing, and someone's throwing flirty glances across the fire. In theory, fidelity was the gold standard, especially for married folks. In practice, well, let's just say Egyptians were human, and humans then as now had a knack for complicating things. If you're enjoying this dive into ancient drama, hit that like button, drop a comment about where you're tuning in from, and maybe crank that fan for a soothing hum. If you're caught sneaking around, don't expect a courtroom drama or a priest waving a papyrus scroll of shame. For everyday folks, infidelity was more a social faux pas than a capital crime. Get caught and the village gossips would have a field day, think loud whispers and snarky songs at the next harvest festival. For men, especially those with a bit of wealth, a fling with an unmarried woman might get a shrug, but mess with another man's wife, that's a recipe for trouble, especially if her husband owns half the barley fields. Women faced harsher scrutiny: paternity, and inheritance was serious business, and a wandering wife could spark chaos during harvest season. Consequences might mean divorce, a dented reputation, or in rare cases a beating or banishment, especially in elite circles where honour was a full-time job. Still, Egyptians didn't legislate every affair. No moral police, no public stonings, just social pressure, and the occasional curse from an angry god with a jackal head. New Kingdom texts hint at the stakes. One story calls adulterers fools, doomed to bad luck or divine smiting. Another warns of impotence as punishment, ouch. Yet when marriages broke, divorce was straightforward: split the property, wave goodbye, and let the neighbours pretend they're not watching. As we head to the royal family's eyebrow-raising habits, keep this in mind: Egyptians didn't sweat the small stuff, but they knew when to draw the line, usually where the grain or the gods were concerned. Alright, cozy up, maybe tweak that fan to keep the vibe calm, because we're diving into a part of ancient Egypt that might make you raise an eyebrow or two. Royal sibling marriages, yep, brothers marrying sisters, and not in a metaphorical, we're all family way. If your first thought is, wait, what, you're not alone. Modern brains recoil, but in ancient Egypt this was less about romance and more about power politics and a god complex that could fill the Nile. Imagine you're a pharaoh convinced your bloodline's divine descended from Ra himself. Marrying your sister isn't weird, it's strategy. Let's unpack this. The logic was cold but calculated. Pharaohs didn't trust outsiders, even nobles with access to the throne. Marrying a sister or half-sister kept the royal blood pure and the crown in the family. It was less about love and more about dynastic trust issues. Think of it as an ancient prenup with divine stakes. The gods, after all, set the precedent. Cyrus and Isis siblings and spouses were the ultimate power couple. Royals followed suit to mirror that cosmic order, ensuring stability, or at least the illusion of it. Tutankhamun, for example, was born from a sibling union, though his club foot and weak immune system hint that doubling down on the family tree had downsides. Commoners. They weren't signing up for this. Your average farmer married outside the family, thank you very much, keeping things practical and less well awkward. But for royals, it was tradition wrapped in mythology. Even Cleopatra played the game, marrying her brothers plural before ditching them for bigger names like Caesar and Antony, none of whom thankfully shared her DNA. To us it's bizarre. To them it was just another day at the palace. As we shift to their cheeky art hole this thought, royal love was less about hearts and more about keeping the throne on lockdown. You're lounging by the Nile, the air warm with the scent of lotus and baked clay, the hum of your fan blending with the distant chatter of an Egyptian village. Now let's talk about a side of ancient Egypt that proves they weren't all stiff statues and solemn hieroglyphs. Their art could get cheeky sometimes, downright naughty. Forget the stoic pharaohs and serene gods for a moment. Egyptians had a sense of humour and weren't afraid to sketch a bit of spice. If you're grinning at the thought tap that like button, tell me in the comments where you're chilling tonight, and let's dive into their playful side. The star of this show is the Turin erotic papyrus, tucked away in an Italian museum like a mischievous secret. Dating to around 1150 BCE, it's not subtle, think graphic scenes of men and women. One guy even balancing on an amphora like he's auditioning for an ancient circus. Is it satire erotica? A bachelor party gift gone wild? Scholars bicker, but it's probably a mix, a wink at fertility obsession, poking fun at big wigs and bigger egos. Most Egyptian art wasn't this bold. Temples stuck to symbolic nudity, Hathor's bare curves or Min's proud stance, always reverent, tied to rebirth or potency. But the Turin papyrus, it's like they said, hold my beer, let's have fun. Then there's the everyday humour. Workers doodled on limestone flakes, think ancient post-its showing animals flirting or exaggerated gestures like a cat serving wine to a mouse. These weren't meant to shock, but to chuckle, a reminder that sex wasn't taboo, just another slice of life. Unlike prudish later cultures, Egyptians didn't blush at desire. They celebrated it with boundaries and a smirk. As we move to their steamy poetry picture, this a culture that could carve divine falcons and still giggle at a raunchy sketch. Imagine you're at an ancient Egyptian banquet, the air heavy with incense and date wine, a harpist strumming softly as the Nile glimmers under moonlight. Your fan's hum fades into the scene, and someone stands to read a poem that makes everyone lean closer. Egyptian love poetry wasn't chiselled stone or stuffy metaphors, it was raw, passionate, and sometimes so flirty you'd blush. These weren't hidden diary entries. They were performed aloud, shared like a good story, and written on papyrus or broken pots, because nothing says eternal love like a recycled jug. Ready for some ancient romance? Drop a comment with your vibe tonight, and let's get swept away. From the New Kingdom around 1300 BCE, these poems pulse with life. A woman writes, "I lie down feigning sickness, hoping you'll visit, and your touch will cure me." That's not subtle. It's a plan bold and playful. Men weren't shy either. Your voice is sweeter than beer, one says, and in a beer-loving culture that's a monument-worthy compliment. Both men and women poured their hearts into these lines, rare for the ancient world, where women's voices often went unheard. They spoke of stolen glances by lotus ponds, hearts racing like gazelles' gardens, and rivers hinting at more than just scenery. These weren't private whispers, but public art read at feasts or courtship gatherings, maybe with a tambourine for flair. Metaphors went wild, fruit for sensuality, hunting for pursuit rivers for, well, you get it. Desire wasn't something to cage, it was to be sung, scribbled and savoured. Egyptians didn't overthink love, they lived it loud and unapologetic. As we head to their quirky aphrodisiacs hold, this image a culture where love was a poem, a performance and a promise all at once. You're sprawled out maybe with that fan humming like a lazy Nile breeze, picturing an ancient Egyptian festival under a starlit sky. The air's thick with roasted barley and lotus perfume, and someone hands you a bundle of lettuce. Not the sad limp stuff in your fridge, but crisp upright remains sacred to Min, the god of fertility, who's basically Egypt's wingman for romance. In a world where aphrodisiacs mean oysters or chocolate, Egypt went hard for salad, because why not? If you're chuckling, hit that like button, tell me where you're tuning in from in the comments, and let's dig into this quirky obsession. Min's statues don't play coy. He's depicted standing tall, very tall, crowned with lettuce, gripping his ahem signature feature like it's a divine trophy. Why lettuce? It's not just a veggie. It stands bolt upright and oozes milky sap when cut, screaming fertility symbolism so loud even the Nile crocodiles took notes. Priests saw it and thought, that's potency in plant form. At festivals, worshippers offered lettuce bundles to Min's shrines, praying for virility, healthy pregnancies, or just a lucky date night. It wasn't a fad lettuce pops up in tomb art hieroglyphs, even afterlife offerings like, pack me a salad for eternity, please. Was it effective? Maybe it just freshened breath before a kiss, but Egyptians believed it boosted sexual health, and that faith mattered. They saw the world as a mirror. Nile floods, lotus blooms, and yes, suggestive veggies all tied to life's rhythm. Min was their Tinder algorithm worship, right, and your odds improved. As we wrap up with their practical take on contraception and virginity, keep this vibe, Egyptians didn't just live for love, they made it divine, one lettuce stalk at a time. You're still here maybe with that fan's soft whir pulling you deeper into ancient Egypt, where the Nile's hum and the scent of mud brick homes set the scene. Let's talk about how Egyptians handled family planning and virginity. Spoiler, it's practical, a bit wild and refreshingly chill. No modern clinics or purity pledges here, just a culture that saw sex as life's pulse, not a moral minefield. Imagine you're a woman by the river tracking your cycle with the moon, or a guy mixing herbs for stamina, all while your neighbour's grandma insists honey fixes everything. Sound fun? Drop a comment with your time zone and let's wrap this story. Contraception was real if creative. The Ebers papyrus from around 1550 BCE suggests stuff like acacia gum which ferments into lactic acid, a legit spermicide, not bad for ancient tech. Then there's the less appealing option, crocodile dung mixed with honey and sourdough used as a barrier. Effective, debatable. Unpleasant. Definitely. Midwives and women shared this know-how, blending herbs, rituals and prayers to Isis or Hathor for control over fertility. Pregnancy tests, pea on barley or emmer wheat, if it sprouts, congrats, you're expecting. These weren't just guesses. They show a culture obsessed with understanding the body even without microscopes. Virginity. It barely registered. No ceremonies, no purity police, no mothers-in-law inspecting linens like they're hunting for fakes. The closest word means young woman, more about age than status. Value came from fertility loyalty and keeping the household humming, not some untouched resume. Sex was like baking bread, important, sacred sometimes, but nobody's checking your recipe. Egyptians didn't sweat it. They lived it, balancing desire with duty. As we close this tale, picture a world where bodies weren't shamed, love wasn't caged, and life flowed like the Nile, messy, vital and unapologetic. Picture yourself in Washington, D.C. on August 24th, 1814. The air's heavy with summer heat, but it's about to get hotter. Columns of smoke choke the night sky as British soldiers, their red coats glowing in the firelight, march through the young capital like they own it. The Capitol's burning the president's mansion, soon to be called the White House, is next, and the city's pride is crumbling faster than a poorly baked biscuit. This isn't just a military strike, it's a gut punch to a nation barely finding its feet. Settle in, maybe turn that fan on for a soothing hum, hit the like button. If you're feeling this, and drop a comment, where are you and what's the clock saying? The War of 1812 is in full swing, and America's learning the hard way that picking a fight with the British Empire isn't a picnic. The capital, a teenager in political years, is defenceless. No barricades, No grand army, just a handful of panicked militia and a government scrambling to save face. The British aren't here to conquer, they're here to humiliate. They torch the capital's half-built wings, the Library of Congress, even the Treasury, with a precision that's almost polite. It's a message you're not as tough as you think. The flames lick rooftops and the city's quiet save for the crackle of burning dreams and the crunch of British boots. This isn't random chaos. It's revenge for American raids on British territory, a slapback from an empire distracted by Napoleon, but now free to flex. President James Madison's fled papers stuffed in carts, while Dolly Madison grabs a portrait of George Washington before bolting. The nation watches stunned as its heart burns. No one expected this, not the farmers, not the senators, not you standing in the smoke wondering how it all went so wrong. As we rewind to the missteps that led here, hold this image, a young republic battered but not broken, learning resilience the hard way. You're still in 1814, the scent of smoke lingering in your mind, that fans hum, keeping you grounded. Let's back up to see how Washington ended up a bonfire. 2 years ago, America declared war on Britain, brimming with bravado. The plan: invade Canada, kick the British out, and strut onto the world stage. Sounds great, except Britain's an empire, not a pushover, and America's got more swagger than strategy. Picture a scrappy kid picking a fight with a battle-hardened giant. Spoiler, it doesn't go well. If you're hooked, tap that like, tell me where you're tuning in from and let's unravel this mess. By 1814, Napoleon's out of the picture and Britain's got spare troops and a grudge. America's invasion of Canada, a flop. The US Navy scores a few wins, but on land it's defeat after defeat. Political squabbles don't help. Some states hate this war, supplies are thin, and leadership's a mess. The British smelling weakness target Washington, not for conquest, but for a symbolic smackdown. It's the seat of power, the Republic's pride, and it's sitting there like a duck in a swamp. No one thinks they'll actually strike. Secretary of War John Armstrong bets they'll hit Baltimore instead. Spoiler, he's wrong. Scouts and civilians warn of British ships landing at Benedict, Maryland, but bureaucracy and wishful thinking slow the response. General William Winder, tasked with defence, is better at paperwork than battle plans. His militia's untrained, some are drunk, and professional soldiers are scarce. The British, led by battle-tested Major General Robert Ross, march like it's a Sunday stroll. By the time they reach Bladensburg, just outside DC, America's defences are a patchwork of hope and chaos. As we head to that doomed battle picture, this a nation overconfident, underprepared, and about to get a lesson in humility that'll echo for generations. You're standing on a dusty road in Maryland, August 1814, the air thick with summer's weight and the distant thud of British boots. That fan's hum in your room pulls you back, but here there's no escaping the tension. The British, fresh from Napoleonic wars, are marching toward Washington, D.C., led by Major General Robert Ross and his 4,500 veterans. It's not a desperate charge, it's a casual hike, like they're out for a pint because America's defences are crumbling before they even arrive. If you're gripped by this hit that like button drop a comment with your time zone, and let's march into the chaos. President James Madison knows the British are coming. Scouts shout warnings, civilians whisper rumours, but the response is a masterclass in indecision. Secretary of War John Armstrong, in a stroke of denial, worthy of a ballad, insists they'll hit Baltimore, not DC. He's betting on hope, not strategy. Brigadier General William Winder, tasked with stopping the invasion, is drowning in his own hesitation. His force militiamen, mostly untrained, some swaying from too much ale, barely outnumbers the British. But heart doesn't win wars. Winder dithers, pulling back instead of digging in, unsure where to strike. The clash comes at Bladensburg, just northeast of DC, on August 24th. It's less a battle, more a fiasco. American militia break ranks before firing a shot, some dropping muskets to sprint for the hills. Madison himself rides out, sees the disaster, and wisely bolts to avoid becoming a British trophy. The British, stunned by the ease of it, waltz toward Washington. No trenches, no barricades, just an open road to the capital's heart. You can almost hear the city's pulse racing as the redcoats near. As we head to the flames that'll engulf DC whole, this America's pride is about to burn, not from strength, but from a comedy of errors. You're in Washington, D.C. night falling on August 24th, 1814. The city's eerily quiet, save for the crunch of British boots and the crackle of fires already smouldering. Your fan's hum fades as you watch redcoats led by Major General Robert Ross and Admiral George Cockburn move with chilling precision. They're not looting or raging, they're on a mission to torch America's pride. The capital's flames light the sky, and the president's mansion is next. It's surgical, humiliating, and you're right there, feeling the heat, loving this smack that like comment where you're at and let's watch the Capitol burn. The British start with the Capitol still a work in progress but proud enough to sting when it burns. The north and south wings home to Congress go up in flames along with the Library of Congress, books, dreams and history reduced to ash. It's not just a building, it's a symbol, and the British know it. Next, they hit the President's mansion. Dolly Madison's already fled, but not before saving George Washington's portrait, a defiant act that'll become legend. The troops find dinner laid out untouched, and in a surreal twist they eat it savouring the President's meal before setting the place ablaze. Cockburn, nursing a grudge over American taunts, even climbs the House Speaker's chair, mocking, "Shall this Yankee democracy burn? Oh yes." Over 2 days, the Treasury, War Department, Navy Yard and more are torched. Some spots like the Patent Office are spared. William Thornton begs it's for all mankind and the British relent. This isn't random destruction. It's a calculated slap meant to leave scars. The smoke chokes the air and America's ego lies in rubble. As we move to the storm that'll change everything, picture this a nation on its knees, but with a spark of defiance flickering in the ashes. You're still in Washington, D.C., August 24, 1814, the city ablaze under British torches. The Capitol's a smouldering ruin, the President's mansion is a skeleton of flames, and the air tastes of ash. Your fan's hum pulls you back, but here something wild is brewing. The sky darkens not from smoke, but from a storm so fierce it feels like the heavens are fed up. Winds howl, thunder cracks, and the British smug in their victory start glancing upward. If this drama's got you hooked, hit that like button, drop a comment with where you're at. Maybe Vietnam, 5:22 p.m, and let's ride this tempest. Rain pours in sheets, dousing fires the British set. Winds rip roofs off buildings, fling cannons like toys, and crush a soldier under debris. Then, as if nature's doubling down, a tornado, yes, a literal tornado, tears through DC's heart. Carts fly, trees snap, and redcoats hit the dirt, their swagger gone. Some British officers whisper of divine judgment, a cosmic slap for torching a defenceless city. They'd planned a parade of humiliation, but now they're soaked, shaken, and rethinking their life choices. Major General Robert Ross and Admiral George Cockburn, sensing fate's nudge, prepare to pull out. For Washington, this storm's a cruel paradox. It wrecks what's left, flooding streets, toppling scorched walls, but it also saves the city from total ruin, quenching flames that might have devoured more. To Americans, it's near mythical. Preachers call it God's hand, newspapers hail Providence, and even grizzled militiamen mutter about miracles. Nature doesn't pick sides, but it's hard not to feel the symbolism. The British are gone, their boots squelching, and the capital's still American. As we move to the aftermath picture, this a battered city, wet ash underfoot, but a flicker of hope, rising like dawn after a long brutal night. Dawn breaks over Washington, D.C., August 25th, 1814. The British are gone, their fires doused by a freak storm, but the capital's a wreck. The capital's a blackened husk, the president's mansion a charred frame, and the streets are a soggy mess of ash and debris. Your fan's hum keeps you grounded, but here the air's heavy with shame and shock. America's pride lies in ruins, and the question hangs like smoke: can this young nation recover? If you're feeling the weight of this tap, that like comment where you're tuning in Vietnam maybe at 5:22 p.m, and let's sift through the rubble. The psychological toll is brutal. Citizens feel like they've lost a second revolution, with Britain marching through like it's 1776 all over again. Some in Congress whisper abandon DC. It's a swampy compromise, a failed experiment. Why not move to Philadelphia or New York cities with actual defences? But President James Madison, back from his frantic escape, plants his flag. He and Dolly, now a folk hero for saving Washington's portrait, vow to rebuild. The capital's not just buildings, it's belief. Ordinary folks, carpenters, bricklayers, labourers join in, driven by a stubborn spark of defiance. Rebuilding's slow, funds are tight, morale's worse. Congress squats in the patent office, then a makeshift brick building, every meeting a reminder of loss. Architect Benjamin Latrobe returns sketching grander designs with stronger stone. The President's mansion rises, its burn marks hidden under whitewash. Hello, White House. The scars visible and emotional harden into resolve. Washington won't budge. This isn't just about bricks, it's about proving a republic can take a hit and stand taller. As we head to Baltimore's fight back, hold this: from ashes, America's finding its spine, forging an identity that'll outlast the flames. You're in Baltimore, September 1814, just weeks after Washington's ashes settled. The air's thick with salt and gunpowder, and your fan's hum blends with a distant boom of cannons. The British cocky from torching DC now eye this port city home to pesky privateers who've been nipping at their ships. They expect another easy win, but Baltimore's not rolling over. Trenches are dug, cannons gleam at Fort McHenry, and the city's buzzing with defiance. If this grit's got you pumped, hit that like button, drop a comment maybe from Vietnam at 5:23 p.m, and let's stand with the defenders. Baltimore's ready. Over 10,000 volunteers, citizens, labourers, even enslaved people have fortified the city. Earthworks rise, harbour guns bristle, and everyone's got a stake in this fight. The British plan a two-pronged attack, a land assault from the east, and a naval bombardment from the Patapsco River. But things unravel fast. Major General Robert Ross, DC's conqueror, takes a sharpshooter's bullet early in the land battle, a gut punch to British morale. On the water, their fleet unleashes a 25-hour barrage on Fort McHenry. Rocket scream bombs burst, and the night's a hellscape of fire. Yet the fort holds its defenders, refusing to raise a white flag. Dawn breaks on September 14th, smoke clearing over the harbour. The British expect surrender, but instead a massive American flag. 30 feet tall, stitched by Mary Pickersgill, snaps defiantly in the breeze. On a British ship lawyer, Francis Scott Key, there to negotiate a prisoner swap, sees it and scribbles a poem. Oh, say, can you see? Baltimore stands unbroken, and the British slink away. This isn't just a win. It's a middle finger to Empire, a spark for America's battered pride. As we head to the war's legacy, picture this: a flag, a fort, and a city that said, not today. It's late 1814, and the smoke's cleared from Washington and Baltimore. Your fan's hum pulls you back, but the weight of America's trial lingers. The capital's a charred ruin, yet Baltimore's stand has lit a fire in the nation's heart. The War of 1812, once a messy sideshow, now feels like a second fight for independence. From the ashes, a new American identity is taking shape, one forged in humiliation, defiance, and stubborn hope. If this resonates, tap that like comment where you're at Vietnam, 5:23 p.m, and let's trace the legacy. The British miscalculated. Burning Washington was meant to crush morale, but it woke America up. Fear ripples: could Philadelphia or New York fall next? But so does resolve. Militias arm cities fortify, and newspapers spit fiery calls for revenge. Baltimore's victory, with its flag still waving, shifts the tide. In Ghent, Belgium, American diplomats like John Quincy Adams stand firm, refusing British demands for land or control. Exhausted by war and domestic woes, Britain blinks. The Treaty of Ghent, signed December 24, 1814, calls it a draw. No land changes hands, no reparations, just a return to pre-war terms. Ironically, the Battle of New Orleans, a US win, happens weeks later, sealing an emotional victory. Washington's rebuilding becomes a symbol. The White House, whitewashed to hide scars, rises anew. Fortifications grow, the military gets a budget boost, and civilians see themselves not as state citizens, but as Americans. Francis Scott Key's poem becomes the national anthem, Dolly Madison a legend, and DC the unquestioned capital. The British, embarrassed, downplay their raid. They burned walls, not will. This trauma birthed resilience, proving a republic could stagger, bleed, and still stand. As we shift to medieval motherhood, hold this from flames: America found its soul not in victory, but in enduring. Imagine you're in medieval Europe, the air sharp with wood smoke and damp earth, a village humming with the clatter of looms and the bleat of goats. Your fan's hum fades into the crackle of a hearth, but here a girl's life is already mapped out. Motherhood isn't a choice, it's destiny. From cradle to grave, a woman's worth is tied to bearing children, especially sons in a world where survival hinges on labour and lineage. It's a heavy crown worn young, and you're right there feeling its weight. If this pulls you in, hit that like button, drop a comment maybe from Vietnam, 5:24 p.m, and let's step into their story. For peasants, motherhood means hands to work the fields. You're married by your mid-teens, maybe to a neighbour's son, your family eyeing his plough or livestock. Nobles, it's chess with wombs. Girls betrothed at 12, their bodies pledged to alliances before they've outgrown braids. Fertility's a bargaining chip, and the pressure's relentless. A peasant wife without a baby after a year hears whispers. A noblewoman risks annulment or a husband's wandering eye. Sons are gold, peasants need labourers, kings need heirs. Daughters useful but not the prize. A barren womb isn't just personal, it's a failure, spiritual for some, political for others. The church looms, large, preaching Eve's sin dooms women to childbirth's pain. A duty and penance rolled into one. You're praised for suffering quietly, your womb, public property, divine machinery for crops or crowns. Yet there's resilience, peasant women toil beside their husbands. Noble mothers navigate court intrigue, all betting on children to secure their place. It's not soft or saintly, it's raw, relentless, and vital. As we move to the battlefield of childbirth picture, there's a world where motherhood shapes not just lives but kingdoms, one painful birth at a time. You're in a medieval hut, the air thick with herbs and fear, a wooden stool creaking under a labouring woman. Your fan's hum is drowned by the flicker of a rushlight and the murmur of prayers. Childbirth here isn't a hospital scene with sterile tools, it's a battlefield, and the mother's the lone soldier armed only with grit and hope. Every birth's a gamble with death, and you're there heart-pounding as the village midwife wipes her brow. If this raw reality grips you, tap that like comment where you're at Vietnam, 5:24 p.m, and let's face the peril together. No doctors, no painkillers, just a dimly lit room, a circle of women, and the ever-present shadow of mortality. Midwives wise but untrained rely on handed-down knowledge. A breech baby, stalled labour, or bleeding, there's little they can do but pray. The church says pain's holy Eve's curse for humanity's fall, so crying out might mark you weak or sinful. Some sip poppy or henbane brews to dull the agony, but they're risky, sometimes deadly. Charms help St. Margaret's girdle wrapped around your belly, holy relics under the bed, psalms chanted as the midwife cuts the cord. Yet death hovers, blood loss, infection, or puerperal fever can claim you days later. 1 in 10 mothers dies more for peasants with back-to-back pregnancies. Stillbirths are common, each loss a wound no one names. Rich or poor, you're at mercy's edge, surrounded by neighbours or noble women, men barred from this sacred, terrifying space. It's biology, prayer, and penance all tangled. You survive or you don't, and the world keeps turning. As we move to the struggle of keeping children alive, hold this: every birth was a miracle, every mother a warrior fighting odds that would break most. You're in a medieval village, the air sharp with dung and damp straw, your fan's hum fading into the crackle of a hearth where a mother cradles her newborn. Childbirth's battle is won, but the war's just begun. In this world, half the children don't see their 5th birthday, some never breathe, others fade before they walk. It's a merciless grind, and you're there feeling the mother's fierce, fragile hope. If this tugs at you, hit that like button drop. A comment, Vietnam 5:26 p.m, and let's face the odds with her. The first year's the deadliest. Fevers, diarrhea, and malnutrition are silent killers striking in cramped peasant homes with dirt floors and fouled wells. No antibiotics, no vaccines, just a mother's desperate fight against enemies she can't see. She boils herbs, whispers prayers, and watches her baby's chest rise and fall, each breath a small victory. Noble women fare better with cleaner rooms and fuller pantries, but disease doesn't bow to titles. Plague, smallpox, measles, they take royal and ragged alike. High birth rates aren't just for heirs, they're for survival, a grim roll of the dice hoping one child outlasts the rest. Grief's a constant shadow. Some mothers delay naming babies, guarding their hearts against loss. Not coldness, necessity. Burying 1 child is a wound, burying 3 is routine, yet love burns fierce. You see it in her blistered feet walking miles for healing herbs, or her trembling hands holding a priest for a deathbed baptism. Letters and prayers, scrawled in margin, scream devotion. She fights with lullabies, broth, and stubborn will, knowing life won't pause for her tears. As we shift to noble mother's high-stakes game picture, this a peasant woman, backbent, heart bruised, but still daring to hope against a world that breaks her bit by bit. You're in a medieval castle torchlight, flickering on stone walls, the air heavy with intrigue and wax. Your fan's hum blends with the rustle of velvet as a noblewoman paces her womb, a battlefield for dynasties. Motherhood here isn't just love, it's politics, where every son's a pawn and every daughter a bargaining chip. Her pregnancies are watched like war campaigns, and you're there feeling the weight of a crown she'll never wear. If this pulls you and tap that like comment, Vietnam 5:26 p.m, and let's navigate her high-stakes world. From the moment she weds, a noblewoman's job is clear produce heirs, Healthy, legitimate male. Fail and she's disposable. Kings like Henry VIII annul barren wives. Others take mistresses, leaving her shamed. A son secures her place, a daughter's a consolation prize, betrothed young to seal alliances. Her womb's a national asset, tracked by courtiers whispering of succession or scandal. Even success brings no rest. She oversees her children's futures, not with lullabies, but with strategy. Wet nurses and tutors raise them, but she guards their reputations, arranges marriages, and dodges court gossip like arrows. Some wield power through their sons. Eleanor of Aquitaine didn't just birth kings, she counselled and outmanoeuvred them. Margaret of Anjou led armies for her son's throne. Isabella of France toppled her husband for hers. These aren't soft mothers. They're operatives in silk, their love tangled with duty. Heartbreak stalks them to stillbirths, assassinations, or children sent to foreign courts, maybe never seen again. They balance status and sacrifice their hearts, stretched across continents. As we move to peasant mothers' raw endurance hold, this noble women shaped kingdoms, not with swords, but with the children they fought to raise against odds as brutal as any battlefield. You're in a medieval hamlet, the air thick with damp straw, and the faint tang of livestock, your fans hum fading into the crackle of a dying hearth. A peasant woman barely past her teens kneels by a cradle, her hands rough from fieldwork, her eyes heavy but fierce. Motherhood here isn't a phase, it's her whole world, a relentless grind of birth, toil and loss. She's pregnant again, maybe her third time, with no rest in sight. If this raw strength grips you, hit that like button drop. A comment Vietnam 5:29 p.m. and let's walk with her through this unyielding life. Peasant women marry young mid-teens and the church frowns on contraception, so pregnancies stack like firewood. You give birth in a dim hut, maybe alone, maybe with a neighbour's help on a dirt floor with no clean linens. No doctors, no mercy, just you a stool and hope you don't bleed out. Hours later, you're back in the fields, baby strapped to your back because the harvest waits for no one. Death's a frequent guest. Childbirth might take you, or the next fever might claim your child. Life's cruel, unsentimental, and moves on whether your heart's ready or not. Yet there's love in the grit. You sing lullabies in a hoarse voice, braid your daughter's hair with calloused fingers, give your bread to a hungry son. Your shoes, worn through so he can walk to church. Every child's a risk, another mouth, but also hands to churn butter or herd goats. You teach them young fetch waterweed gardens survive. Affection's quiet, a kiss on a scraped knee, a shared straw bed's warmth. Loss is routine, but you endure carrying burdens heavier than the firewood on your back. As we move to infant care, picture this, a mother bent but unbroken, her love a stubborn flame in a world that never pauses. You're in a medieval peasant's hut, the air heavy with smoke and the faint sourness of unwashed cloth. A mother rocks her newborn, her body weary from fields and birth. Your fan's hum melts into the creak of a cradle, but here infant care is a raw, desperate act of survival. Breastfeeding and raising a child isn't a cosy ritual, it's a lifeline dictated by need and hierarchy. If this hits hard, tap that like comment Vietnam 5:29 p.m. and let's cradle this harsh reality together. For peasant mothers, breastfeeding's non-negotiable. No formula, no safe animal milk, just your body nourishing a fragile life. You feed for years, toddlerhood, even not just for love, but because it slightly delays the next pregnancy, a small mercy in a world of constant births. You work with the baby strapped to you, pausing to nurse between sowing seeds or hauling water. Noble women. They often skip it, breastfeeding's beneath them, a drain on their duty to churn out heirs. Wet nurses, healthy lower-class women, step in sometimes bonding closer with the child than its mother. The church frets, could a nurse's impure milk taint a soul, but practicality wins. Infant care's brutal. Babies are swaddled tight in rags or moss meant to straighten limbs, but often unchanged reeking. Baths are rare, cribs are hard boards or shared beds risking smothering. Teething charms or risky herbs. Sickness strikes, fast fevers, infections, no doctors. A dead child might be God's will or your sin, the church says, piling guilt on grief. Yet you rock, soothe, sing in a cracked voice, pouring love into a world of mud and loss. Mothers rich or poor fight with what they have, milk prayers, defiance. As we head to the spiritual side, hold this every feed, every lullaby as a stand against a world that takes without asking. You're in a medieval village, the air thick with incense and the damp chill of stone, your fans hum blending with the chant of psalms from a nearby chapel. A mother-to-be kneels, clutching a St. Margaret token, her prayers a shield against the perils of childbirth. In this world, motherhood isn't just flesh and blood, it's a spiritual gauntlet. Every step from conception to cradle, watched by the church and shadowed by sin. You feel her hope, her fear right here. If this stirs you, hit that like button, drop a comment, Vietnam 9:44 AM, and let's tread this sacred ground. The church casts a long shadow. Eve's fall, they preach curses women to labour's pain, a divine tax on every birth. Suffering's holy and a mother's soul is always on trial. Before labour you seek St. Margaret's protection. Legend says she burst from a dragon's belly, so surely she'll guard yours. Her prayers are whispered through contractions, her image worn like armour. If you die unconfessed, you risk damnation, a terror as real as the pain. After birth, baptism's urgent and unbaptized baby might linger in limbo, a thought that haunts. Midwives sometimes trusted to baptize in emergencies race against death's clock. Superstition fills the gaps. You tie charms to the cradle, hang herbs to ward off the evil eye, or whisper secret names to trick fairies. The church's churching rite, 40 days post-birth, purifies you. Until then you're unclean, barred from worship. It's a blessing, but also a rebuke, marking your body as tainted by life itself. Yet faith's a refuge too. Prayers anchor you, rituals steady your heart. You cling to hope between psalms and pain, a mother's soul as embattled as her body. As we move to their enduring legacy, picture this, a woman praying through fear, weaving love and faith into a world that judges her every breath. You're standing in a medieval graveyard, the air heavy with moss and memory, your fan's hum lost to the rustle of leaves over unmarked stones. Here lie mothers who left no diaries, no statues, just lullabies, prayers, and the children they fought to raise. Their legacy isn't inked in history's margins, but carved in the generations that followed, a silent strength that echoes in you. If this moves you, tap that like, comment, Vietnam 9:44 AM, and let's honour these unsung architects of the medieval world. Their love wasn't loud. No baby showers, no framed portraits, just quiet, fierce acts. A peasant mother gives her bread to a starving child, walks barefoot so her son wears shoes. A noble woman pens letters begging news of a daughter sent to a foreign court. You see it in scrawled names beside prayers, in tiny shoes left on graves, in folk tales, where mothers trade lives for their children's safety. Loss was their shadow. Stillbirths, fevers, plagues, war. A mother might raise 10, bury 6, and grieve in silence, her tears swallowed by fields that need ploughing. Yet she endures birthing in pain, loving through loss, teaching survival with every patched tunic. They faced it all, childbirth's peril, the church's scrutiny, society's demands. Some bore violence, poverty, or exile, yet nurtured, protected, hoped. Their strength wasn't saintly, it was tough, jagged, human. They built families not with gold, but with grit. Their sacrifices rippling into kingdoms and villages. History rarely names them, but their labour-shaped futures, their choices wove the world. As we shift to the telescope's tail, hold these women unnamed but unbreakable. Carried life forward, their love a defiance that outlasts stone and time. Picture yourself under a star-strewn sky thousands of years ago. No city lights, just the crackle of a fire and the vast glittering cosmos above. Your fan's hum fades into the rustle of desert wind, and you're gazing up like ancient Babylonians or Mayans with nothing but your eyes to map the heavens. No telescopes, no apps, just wonder, a pinch of awe, and a whole lot of guesswork. If this sparks your curiosity, hit that like button, drop a comment, Vietnam 9:47 AM, and let's wander through a time when the stars were stories, not science. Back then the sky wasn't data, it was myth. Orion's a hunter, Scorpio's a divine assassin, planets are wanderers drifting against fixed stars. Were they gods? Flaming chariots? Nobody knew, they just watched. Babylonians carved eclipse predictions on clay Mayans, tied calendars to Venus's dance, and Greeks built gadgets like the Antikythera mechanism to track planets. Tools like the astrolabe, honed by Islamic astronomers, measured star paths with eerie precision, all by naked eye. You'd stand in the dust squinting at Jupiter, wondering if it's a king's soul or a cosmic lantern, no way to zoom in. The heavens were perfect, said Aristotle, eternal, unchanging, divine. Earth, a messy speck below. This belief locked the stars in mystery. Why study what's already flawless? Yet questions nagged. Why do planets wobble? What's the Milky Way's glow? You like them stare up, craving answers your eyes can't give. It's humbling, no glass, no mirrors, just raw human longing to crack the sky's code. As we move to the first glimmers of optics, hold. This ancient sky watchers didn't just see stars, they wove them into stories that lit the path to discovery. You're in a dusty ancient workshop, the air sharp with the tang of polished stone, your fan's hum blending with the scrape of a craftsman shaping crystal. Long before telescopes pierced the stars, humans stumbled onto something magical light could bend, making small things big. No one's aiming at the sky yet, but these early accidents with lenses are the spark that'll ignite the cosmos. If this tinkering vibe hooks you, tap that like, comment Vietnam 9:47 AM, and let's trace the first flickers of optical wizardry. In Assyria around 700 BCE, a rock crystal called the Nimrud lens appears polished curved, maybe a magnifier, maybe just a shiny bauble. Either way, it hints at light's tricks, peer through it, and objects swell. By ancient Rome, reading stones, hemispherical glass blobs, help bleary-eyed scholars squint at texts. No one's shouting Eureka, but the idea's born sight can be sharpened. Fast forward to the Islamic Golden Age where Ibn al-Haytham or al-Hazn cracks open light's secrets in the 10th century. He plays with glass mirrors, water, proving light bends into the eye, not out from it, a radical flip that'd make Aristotle blink. His Book of Optics lays the groundwork detailing refraction and reflection, with math no one's touching for centuries. He's not building telescopes, but he's crafting the brainpower behind them. These ideas translated into Latin creep into Europe, whispering to monks and tinkerers light can be tamed. You're holding a crystal, squinting at a scroll, and it hits you can see more than your eyes allow. As we head to spectacles rise, picture this from accidental stones to scholarly breakthroughs. The path to the stars is being paved one bent beam at a time. You're in a bustling 13th century Italian workshop, the air thick with the scent of molten glass and old parchment. Your fan's hum fades into the clink of tools as monks hunch over manuscripts squinting through crude lenses. The telescope's still a dream, but here in Venice or Pisa spectacle makers are changing how we see literally. Aging scholars, their eyes failing, are about to get a boost, and it's laying the groundwork for stargazing. If this sparks your curiosity, hit that like button, drop a comment, Vietnam 9:45 AM, and let's peer through the first lenses. Around 1285, glassmakers craft convex lenses, simple rounds of glass perched on noses, no arms, to hook ears, just pinch and pray they don't fall. These spectacles are game changers. Monks can now read scripture past their prime scholars, burn midnight oil over texts, and suddenly, bad eyesight isn't a career ender. It's not science yet. Craftsmen don't fully grasp refraction, but it's a booming trade. Venice's glass guilds churn out lenses like hotcakes, and the idea spreads: if glass can make tiny script big, could it stretch further, maybe to the stars? No one's there yet. These lenses are for books and needles, not planets. But the seed's planted. Artisans tinker with curves. Scholars dig into old Arabic texts on optics, and the Renaissance's obsession with rediscovery fuels the fire. You're holding a wobbly spectacle, marvelling as letters grow crisp and it hits vision can cheat nature's limits. It's a small step, but it's whispering a big question. What else can we see? As we move to the first spyglass picture, this a world waking up to magnification. One blurry monk at a time inching toward the cosmos. You're in the Netherlands, 1608. The air sharp with salt and sawdust, your fan's hum lost to the clatter of a spectacle maker's shop. Hans Lippershey, a tinkerer with a knack for lenses, has just stumbled onto something wild, a tube with two glass pieces that makes far things near. It's called a spyglass, and it's about to change everything: warships and soon the stars. You're there, squinting through this clunky gadget, feeling the world shrink. If this excites you, tap that like, comment Vietnam 9:45 AM, and let's zoom into this game changer. Lippershey's spyglass is simple. A convex lens up front, a concave one at the eye, bending light to pull distant objects closer. It's not perfect, blurry edges, weak magnification, but it works. Sailors can spot ships before they hit the horizon. Generals can eye enemy lines from a safe hill. Word spreads fast and Europe's buzzing. Nobody's pointed it skyward yet. It's a tool for earthbound scheming, not cosmic dreams. But the idea's alive, combine lenses and distance collapses. Artisans play with shapes, tweaking focal lengths, while scholars sniffing opportunity dust off optics texts. This isn't just a gadget, it's a spark. In Italy, a certain Galileo Galilei hears of it and thinks, I can do better. His ambition's about to turn this toy into a cosmic weapon. You're holding the spyglass, watching a ship grow large, and it hits. If this can shrink oceans, what can it do to the heavens? The stars are still out of reach, but not for long. As we head to Galileo's leap picture, this a Dutch tinkerer unaware he's lit a fuse, handing humanity a key to unlock the universe. You're in Pisa 1609, the air thick with ink and ambition, your fans hum fading into the scratch of Galileo Galilei's quill. News of a Dutch spyglass has reached this mathematics professor, a man with a knack for tinkering and a habit of poking at truths others leave alone. He doesn't just copy the gadget, he rebuilds it, crafting a telescope that's sharper, stronger, and soon pointed at the stars. You're there, peering through his lens as the heavens crack open. If this thrill grabs you, hit that like button comment Vietnam 9:46 AM and let's gaze into Galileo's cosmos. Galileo's telescope starts at 3x magnification, then leaps to 8x, then 20x, a far cry from Lippershey's blurry toy. He turns it skyward, and what he sees shatters Aristotle's perfect heavens. The moon's no smooth orb, it's scarred with craters and mountains, the Milky Way's glow, countless stars not divine mist. Jupiter's got moons, 4 tiny dots, orbiting like a miniature solar system now called Io, Europa, Ganymede and Callisto. Venus shows phases waxing and waning, like the moon proving it circles the sun, not Earth. Each glimpse chips away at the geocentric dogma that Earth's the universe's hub. In 1610, Galileo publishes Sidereus Nuncius, the starry messenger, a bombshell that draws crowds to his telescope and eye from the church. This isn't just science, it's rebellion. The heavens, once divine and untouchable, look messy, dynamic, real. You're staring at Jupiter's moons, feeling the universe expand, and it's dizzying. The church bristles, Galileo's lens is a weapon threatening centuries of doctrine. As we move to Kepler's optical tweak picture, there's a man with a wooden tube rewriting the sky, daring to see what faith forbade. You're in Germany 1610, the air sharp with frost, and the scent of old books your fans hum lost to the rustle of Johannes Kepler's papers. This mathematician, famed for his planetary motion laws, has read Galileo's Sidereus Nuncius, and isn't just impressed, he's itching to improve the telescope's optics. His mind's a whirl of lenses and light, and he's about to flip Galileo's design into something sharper, bolder. You're there, squinting at his sketches, sensing a leap toward clearer skies. If this hooks you, tap that like comment. Vietnam 9:46 AM, and let's focus on Kepler's vision. Galileo's telescope, with its convex front lens and concave eyepiece, has limits, narrow views, fuzzy edges capped at 30x. Kepler, in his 1611 treatise Dioptris, swaps the concave eyepiece for a convex one, the catch. The image flips upside down. The payoff, wider fields, crisper focus, and the potential for massive magnification. Kepler's no tinkerer, he's too busy dodging plague and patron, so he never builds it. But his blueprint spreads like wildfire. By the 1630s, Jesuit astronomer Christoph Scheiner dazzles Vienna's court with a Keplerian scope spying church spires, albeit inverted. The upside-down view's a quirk, spawning erecting eyepieces for land use, but astronomers don't care, they want clarity. Kepler's design lets them sketch sunspots, map lunar valleys, time Jupiter's moons with clockwork precision. Telescopes grow longer. Italy's Francesco Fontana hits 160 Keck with 6-metre tubes. The Huygens brothers chase Saturn's rings with 30-metre beasts. You're peering through a Keplerian lens, stars snapping into focus, and it's electric. The telescope's no longer a toy, it's a scientific engine. As we head to Newton's mirror, magic hold, this Kepler's math reshaped the sky, making the universe not just visible, but vivid. You're in England. 1668, the air sharp with wood shavings, and the tang of polished metal your fans hum fading into the clink of Isaac Newton's tools. This genius, already wrestling with gravity and calculus, is fed up with telescope's flaws, those rainbow smears around stars called chromatic aberration, that no lens can fix. His solution: ditch lenses entirely and use mirrors. You're there watching him craft a game-changer, the reflecting telescope. If this ingenuity lights you up, hit that like button, comment Vietnam 9:57 AM, and let's reflect on Newton's brilliance. Refracting telescopes like Galileo's and Kepler's are stretched to absurd lengths, some 100 feet, to chase clarity, but colours still bleed, blurring the view. Newton, never one to tolerate imperfection, builds a compact tube with a curved mirror at the bottom to collect light, bouncing it to a flat diagonal mirror, then into an eyepiece on the side. No lenses, no rainbows, just crisp, clean images. His first model, barely a foot long, outshines refractors 10 times its size. You peer through it, and Jupiter's belts pop. Saturn's rings gleam all from a backyard, not a cathedral roof. Newton keeps it quiet. At first, public drama's not his thing,